Our plan is to make it all the way out the Strait of Juan de Fuca, but it's not going to be an easy stretch.
Winds primarily blow in from the west, often 20 knots or more, which combined with the big Pacific swell can cause very rough seas against a strong ebb. Currents switch every 6 to 7 hours and can run 3 knots or more.
There are just 2 places to tuck in between Victoria and Bamfield, so we're going to break the passage up into 3 legs.
Because we don't want to sail at night in this area after a past experience hitting an unseen log while underway.
We should be able to keep the current in our favor each day. And now the weather's also looking better for us after waiting an extra day here in Victoria.
The Victoria Harbour Marina is quite an active place. Not only was there a reggae and ska festival right next to the marina in downtown the harbour, but there were street musicians and there was the Victoria Jazz Festival, which is really one of the reasons why we stopped in, was to go to a jazz club last night. So we're gonna head out in the morning, take advantage of the currents and go on our passage and see what happens next.
Our first leg, leaving Victoria, is just 20 nautical miles west to Sooke. And at least for now, the weather was cooperating with our plans after we waited a day to let a low pressure system pass through.
So we made it to Sooke and we're pulling into our slip at the Sooke Harbour Marina. We got here really quickly. We had up to 6 knots current helping us, which we weren't anticipating. So we're like an hour early, which is great. There was some fog this morning, but we have radar and AIS and everything turned out okay. There were a couple of spots where the swell was kind of quick and washing machine-like, but we made it and we're looking forward now to exploring.
Instead of anchoring in the shallows inside the spit, or going all the way into Sooke Basin, we opted for the dock at Sooke Resort and Marina, and to walk a mile or so over to Whiffin Spit Park.
This is a pattern that we've been on here for a while, is we make a passage to someplace, and then we get the boat all set, and in the afternoon we go for a hike.
Or a strenuous walk.
Yeah.
Or fast-paced.
Yeah.
Just to get off the boat and get some exercise in.
This is how we do it.
Yeah, this is how we do it. But there's still 2 more legs to go, and conditions are always subject to change.
There's Cape Flattery.
We're just about the same spot where an incident happened last time I was headed out the Strait of Juan de Fuca. This was on my coastal passage making class for U.S. sailing about 5 years ago or so. And we were on a 42-foot Bavaria. There were 4 students and 2 teachers on board. I was at the helm, and we had about 20 knots of wind. It was about 40 degrees, and we're sailing at night. One thing we didn't realize was that fog had come in. It was nighttime, so we really couldn't see anything anyway, but we were supposed to be looking out for lights of other vessels. So at the helm, I'm sailing here, it's cold, we're just controlling the boat, and all of a sudden there's a red light that appears out of the fog right in front of the boat. And I yell out, "What's that red light?" And the teacher then immediately yells, "Tack!" So we immediately tacked, got out of the way of what this red light was, just barely missed it as it came out of the fog. And I was later able to take a look at the vessel finder, and we had just barely missed an icebreaker. So a couple lessons I learned out of that was, one, at night, always use your radar. And two, you have to have a AIS transmitter on your boat so that not only can you see other vessels, but they can see you. And that was the first thing I did when I bought SV Indigo. I added an AIS transmitter on it for that very reason, from what happened in this very spot about 5 years ago.
Well, it looks like we timed this perfectly. We had ebb current up to about 3 knots, helping us all the way out the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And as soon as we turned the corner towards Port Renfrew, we hit slack, and now we have flooding current helping us go all the way into the marina.
Pacific Gateway Marina has only one dock for transient moorage. It often fills up, and if they put you on the outside, it's a little challenging to get into.
Somehow we were able to squeeze through there, backing in with current and wind at low tide. So we're getting a crap?
Yes.
First thing we do off the dock. It hasn't even been 2 minutes.
I felt like our passage today was actually pretty calm. There was some ocean swell, but the sun was out, the wind was light, so I think based on the weather today, we made the right decision to wait. I know that tomorrow will be raining and the swell will be off the beam and it will be windy. So I'm gonna put on my scopolamine patch, which did me really well in Mexico, going down the Pacific Baja coast. And I think that tomorrow's conditions may warrant that. So I feel pretty good about taking it. I've taken it a couple times and I know what the side effects are for me. So I can come down in the galley and I can make food and I can function as a first mate, especially if conditions might be a little more challenging tomorrow.
This morning we are headed out of Port Renfrew on our way over to Bamfield. It looks like it's about a 42 nautical mile trip, and we have ebb current with us. It should take about 7.5 hours, but with the ebb current, we'll see what happens. Also, there could be wind, and we know there's going to be rain. There is a storm coming in, so we're just going to play this one by ear and see how it goes.
It is rolly, but I feel okay because of the little patch that I have behind my ear. I was able to go downstairs, make some tea. I wouldn't have been able to do that at all. Like barely even sitting in the cockpit, I would have, with this kind of rolliness, I would have felt terrible, and I feel okay.
After navigating the giant swell outside Cape Beale, we headed into Bamfield. It's the northernmost end of the West Coast Trail, first built to help shipwreck survivors on Vancouver Island find their way back to civilization. But for us, this would be the most civilization we'd see for the next couple weeks.
So we made it into Bamfield, and we went to the West Government Dock. There seemed to be a spot open on the outside pier for us to dock. There were 2 other sailboats there, so we took it. We called the number on the government dock, and we don't really know what the situation is here as nobody answers the phone. There doesn't seem to be anybody worrying too much about it.
This is Main Street.
Summer season here, they say, is basically just August. And as we were here in late June, we hardly saw another person, aside from the locals in the mercantile, and the local water taxi driver. The town is a haven both for fishermen and hippies and creatives, residents who like to call themselves Bamfibians.
Keep in mind, there's a cougar in the area.
The boardwalk path was built just after World War II from lumber mistakenly left behind from a shipment meant for another coastal community. It's the primary road of travel connecting the buildings of West Bamfield. Makes me feel like a kid.
Brady's Beach is about a 20-minute, well-marked hike from West Bamfield. It's our first taste of the wild ocean-carved terrain of Barkley Sound's outer islands. While it looks like it opens directly onto the Pacific Ocean, Brady's Beach actually faces the Deer group of islands in Barkley Sound. Islands we would explore next.
With the cold and the kind of the gray and green. I don't know, the scenery, topography reminds me of Scandinavia a little bit. And regardless of the weather, we were happy to have finally completed our passage out of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. We were about to spend the next 3 weeks here, exploring the west side of Vancouver Island for the first time. And this was just an introduction to what we were about to uncover among the sea stacks, hidden coves, and hideaway anchorages ahead of us. Stay tuned for our next episode, Sailing the Wild Pacific Coast. Click to subscribe to catch all of our adventures and follow us on Instagram at Sailing SV Indigo.